Let's get some price picks in today, guys. It is a new week today, so I do want to recap last week and see how we did on YouTube picks in general and how I did just overall on the week. It's very important to be tracking your profits week by week by week, even month by month, to see if you're actually doing profitable sports bets. So I do want to say the YouTube picks, I'm sorry, guys, did not do well this week. I'm going to be completely honest. Nothing really hit. None of the six flexes in the recent videos have hit. The last night was actually a pretty close one. It was a decent night. This was one of the entries I gave. I gave 3 entries in total. Obviously, this one was chalked. But you can see how a big part of my strategy is stacks. So this was a Buffalo stack. If Josh Allen is throwing less pass attempts, it's likely the running back will be rushing more. In this case, it went the opposite way, but you can see how they're both red. If you were to swap this to less and more, then these will both be green. Then I also said to take Taylor with his receivers in Atlanta. That did not pan out. When I grabbed a Ritter instead of Taylor, I didn't see Kyle Pitts on the board anymore, so I didn't take him. Either way, it didn't hit, guys. It was a Bijan, London, and Pitts. I replaced it with just New Orleans defense here. So that one was a chalked one, but the other one that was pretty good was this one here. So I went Cade Cunningham, Bojan on a stack again. On the unders, Jared Allen, Max Strus on a stack again. On the overs, and then Ingram and McCollum, they completely blew out Sacramento. It was pretty insane, guys. By the fourth quarter, they were up 40 points. So, I mean, this game was pretty much chalked for us because Ingram and CJ didn't get that many minutes. I mean, 13-27 is decent, but not enough. And then just in general, CJ popped off last night, 30 points. So you can see how, again, these guys both went under. Especially in blowouts, you're going to have the two starters go under together quite often. And same thing with Jared Allen, Max Strus. This game was a 2-point game, so it was very tight. They both got extra minutes, and it was easier for them to pass their stat lines. This was the second slip I gave last night, went 4-2, and almost a perfect slip. We're going to go here onto the last one I gave, and this was the closest one with Derek Carr, Olave, Shaheed, Atlanta defense, New Orleans defense going under. So it was basically a full stack, and obviously Taylor didn't play. But this was almost a 5 for 5, but Olave could not get his receiving yards. You see how basically the stack, again, is Derek Carr throwing to his main receivers. Atlanta defense getting more tackles and assists because New Orleans is throwing the ball so much. And then New Orleans defense tackling less because they're playing less defense, right? So overall on Sunday, I played 26 slips, and this was the 6 for 6 that I got the 25x for me. And on top of that, I did get a nice 10x here. So with that 25x plus this 10x, that's 35 units right there. And since I only played 26 slips for Sunday, that's already 9 units of profit. And that's excluding all of the 4 out of 6s and the 5 out of 6s, which pay 0.4x. Like this one paid 0.4x from the YouTube video. And then this one, that's 5 out of 6, pays 2x, right? So you're getting still plus units on all that. All in all, the night was about a plus 22.2 unit day. It's a bit off from my Discord tracker because I believe Pickett tracks it slightly differently. But overall, you could see on the week up 58.4 units, and that pretty much lines up with the Pickett. They track it a bit differently. I believe they do it based on the day you bet it. I do it based on the day the bet settles. So plus 58.4 units on that week. And then in general, guys, I just want to show you in the past few days, we have had 3 6 out of 6s. Unfortunately, none of these were ever on the YouTube picks. I'm sorry. Like, I don't get to choose what hits or not. I just play a lot of entries. And then more often than not, I'm getting my money back because I'm hitting my 6 for 6s in less slips than 25, right? As long as you're hitting 1 in 25, you're going to be break even. If you're hitting more than that, you're going to be profitable. That's kind of how it works. So this is, from Sunday, this is from Saturday, and this is from Friday. So it has been a pretty crazy run, honestly. Obviously, this is never going to continue forever. I'm not able to hit 6 flexes every single day. That is absolutely impossible. But it is good to see some consistency there. Then overall, I want to show you guys that you could actually check like your past entries on Prizepicks. They don't have all of them, but if you control F and you write in play here, basically that's going to show you all your entries. So for me, I have 61 saved in my past entries here. Some of these are refunded, so I could even check refunded. 5 of these are refunded. So basically I paid about 55, 56 slips over these past few days, and I believe it goes all the way down to Friday, right? Because basically from Friday to Sunday, I played 61 slips. That's all there's going to be. So if I hit 3 25x's out of 56 slips, you could see how that's profitable, right? Even if I'm putting down 55 units. So let's say I put 55 slips down, they all miss, I'd be down 55 units, right? But if I hit 3 25x's in that time, you could see how I add 75 units because 25 plus 25 plus 25, that's plus 20 units. And that's excluding the other 10x that I just showed you. That's also excluding all the 2x's, all the 0.4x's, which happen quite often, right? There's going to be a lot of 2x's like this, and there is going to be a lot of -5. So you could see all these slips that do go -5, -5, -5. These are all -1 unit. But then again, another 2xer that's not really calculated in this calculation. It's basically the 25x's that really put you in that profit. Then an overall recap of just my transaction log here since January. See down here, I'll scroll all the way to the bottom. Up on January 1st, I did have 11.8k in my account. But this is when I started to get limited by Prizepicks, and I said, what's the point of having 11.8k in an account? So I withdrew 10k and I started fresh with about 1.8k. And now we are sitting at 2.15k. Pretty good week there, and as shown by my Pickett, plus 58.4 units. So 2 losing days on the week, but that is not something anyone should get used to, especially if you're going to join my Discord. Don't think it's going to be like this every day. Like, I'm going to be honest with you, this is a very, very hot streak. So don't come in expecting to hit everything on your first day. You need a lot of discipline and patience, and if things don't go your way, do not go on tilt, because there's always the next day. You guys do want to follow me on Pickett. My name is OddsJuice, pretty much my YouTube name, right? At OddsJuice. If you're not already signed up tracking your bets, I do have a referral link in the description, and then you can follow me there. So get on the board now, and I know I just went over a bunch of concepts, and if you guys did just skip the whole intro, I do recommend watching it because it is pretty important concepts that I go over. It's just basically volume is super important when you're sports betting. You're not going to hit every day. You're not going to hit after one entry, especially when I'm playing 6-mans. And 6-mans are clearly the best way to play the game. It's actually mathematically proven. There's so many videos on YouTube about the best approach to play Prizepicks, and 6 flexes or 5 flexes are good too. But 6 flexes are pretty much that bang for your buck. It's that people are just not used to losing so many slips straight because they play a lot of 2 powers and they're able to hit 2 powers every day. But if you're actually checking your bankroll when you're playing 2 powers, it's going down every week. I could guarantee it. No one is beating 2 powers in the long run. 6 flexes are the way to go. And volume 6 flexes, as you guys just saw, I played 61 entries from Friday to Sunday. That is how you actually make money. Obviously, you need to have the good picks. Don't just play 6 flexes without knowing what you're doing. You're going to want to play a lot of correlation, a lot of positive expected value picks. And then in general, you will be up in the long run. So about this championship game here, I'm going to tell you now, all these lines are set too high. I know everyone's going to be ripping the overs because it's fun to rip overs and watch the championship game, see a lot of people throw a lot of yards, a lot of catches. But I'm telling you now, the actual mathematical approach to this is that these lines are too high. Now, I'm still going to take overs on one slip because I do think there's value in that if it is a shootout. And if this game is tight, there is value in creating a game script around the overs, but the overs are still too high. So what I would do is actually play one approach of unders, one approach of overs, and depending what the game script, obviously only one could hit because you're grabbing overs and unders, and maybe none could hit, but there is a better chance of sort of hedging your game scripts rather than going all in on the overs or all in on the unders, and then you get the best of both worlds if one of them hits, right? So right away on the quarterbacks, you can see Michael Penix at 305 passing yards, JJ McCarthy at 203.5 pass yards. So Michael Penix is the highest on BetMGM at 297.5, and everyone else has him about 293.5. I'll even check another sportsbook just to top it off on the analysis here. So passing yards on Penix as at 293.5. So general consensus is that 293.5. BetMGM is the only one that has him slightly higher. We have him at 300.5. So you could see how that's too high relative to the other sportsbooks. Now, a lot of people don't trust the sportsbook. They say, what do the sportsbooks know? Guys, these sportsbooks put like billions of dollars into their model. They have sharp bettors pumping millions of their own dollars into the lines. So if something was too low or too high, it would be adjusted by money being added to those lines. 293.5 was too low, then people would be hammering that over and eventually the line would move upwards. That's kind of how it works in the sports betting industry. So all these lines being at about 293.5 shows that a general consensus is true that the 293.5 is probably a good spot, fair spot for Michael Penix. Again, 300.5 is way too high. Every sportsbook knows, every sharp bettor knows that this is a championship game. A lot of these factors that people take into consideration is like everyone knows. This stuff is all priced in. Unless you have some actual insider knowledge, maybe Michael Penix's girlfriend just broke up with him, so he wants to throw an extra 300 yards tonight. Something like that might actually affect it if you have some insider knowledge. But in general, something like championship game, weather, these things are all priced into the market. You think DraftKings doesn't know that it's a championship game? You think BetMGM doesn't know that there's a certain weather or that it's indoor game, outdoor game? Everyone knows this. This is all priced in. You think they don't know that he's hit over in the 10 out of 14 games, yet his line is still set at 293.5. So you guys really do have to trust sportsbooks. They look into exactly all the same things we look into and more. So they pretty much know where these lines are set. Go check how many times the results are actually in that half point range from where the line is set at. It happens all the time in the NBA. People at like 23.5 points always finishes about 22 to 25 points because they know exactly what they're doing when they're setting these lines. So that's for Michael here. He set about 3 to 7 yards too high in comparison to the sportsbooks. And then for JJ, he is also set at 199.5, 196.5, 190.5 all the way on BetMGM on a couple of sportsbooks. This one has less of a consensus, but he set at 203.5 on Prizepicks. Only Caesars has him all the way up there. So the under is the play on JJ McCarthy too. Now we can even check the receivers, every single receiver. It's kind of gross, honestly. Every receiver is juiced way too high. You got Odunze here set at 97.5. He is set at 93.5 on BetMGM and then 89.5 on every other sportsbook. That is crazy, guys. 8 extra yards we're getting on Odunze's under. And I even have a perfect case from last night of why this is so important. Drake London here got hooked by 2 yards. Imagine you're getting 7 extra yards. So imagine we got this line all the way at 35.5, for example. You guys see how powerful that is? So that is why the under, again, is the play on all of these players. I mean, you could check any single one on props.cash, kind of link them with their Prizepicks lines. So Polk here, 55.5 is set at 57.5. That one's not as big as a deal. Then we got Jalen here, 66.5 on BetMGM. He is at 67.5, but every other sportsbook look all the way down to 59.5. So now that I proved the unders are definitely to play, how are we going to play this? So like I said, I would play 2 alterations of this game. Now the first one, if you want to grab the overs, instead of grabbing both quarterbacks, you get a little bit more value on the pass yards combo. So you add these 2 lines together, you get 504 passing yards, right? 300.5 plus 203.5. Now if you check the pass yards combo, you actually get 494.5. So you save some yards, 6 yards. It doesn't sound like much again, but I just explained to you how it is a lot. So we're going to grab this combo stack on the over. Now you could pair 3 receivers and turn this into a 4 power with receivers that are basically not set too high, which is kind of all of them, but you're going to find the ones that have a little bit more value than others. Like Odunze here obviously is a terrible pick because you're losing 8 yards. But for example, maybe Roman Wilson at 51.5 might be a better bet. We could check him out live right here. So he's set at 48.5 on other sportsbooks, all the way down to 44.5 on FanDuel. Doesn't look terrible because FanDuel's the only one that kind of has him that low. We could also look at someone else like Johnson here, 41.5, juice towards the under, but general consensus on that. Let's check where we have him here, 43.5. You know, it's not as bad as Odunze, right? You're losing 8 yards here, only losing 2 yards. But the one that looks most decent to me is Jack over here on the over 27.5 receiving yards. FanDuel has him at 28.5, so we're actually getting a full point on FanDuel. The other books have him at 26.5, but there's juice towards that over. So minus 142, minus 136, and minus 130. So that might be a good prop to throw in here. Then for the rest, I would probably fill it up with Michigan players because, like I said, Jalen, Polk, and Odunze are set way too high. We're going to go grab the unders in a different entry here in a bit. We're going to start it with Jack and the stack, but then we're going to see which receivers we want to throw in for Michigan. And I'm thinking Cornelius Johnson and Loveland here on the over 38.5 and 43.5. Again, it's high, but you kind of got to work with what you have, especially when you're taking these overs. You got Cornelius Johnson at 41.5, as I showed before. We're going to have 43.5, so not too bad. Only 2 extra points on the sportsbook. Plus, you do have that reboot policy on Prizepicks, which does come in clutch quite often. I actually cashed with Romeo Dobbs yesterday because of that. So they do have the reboot policy. So I don't mind taking the extra 2 yards here, for example. And then on Loveland, we have him at 36.5 on every sportsbook, even 35 on FanDuel. But we're going to get him at 30.5. So it's not that bad. This is the overslip I would go for rather than grabbing Penix and McCarthy on their own. I like the combo prop better. You get a little bit of extra value. So that would be the first slip, 5 into 50. So for an under approach, I showed you guys Penix is too high and then Odunze is way too high too. So this is a perfect combo on the unders. Now to pair that, you could go like JJ McCarthy under passing yards with Roman Wilson, who is also set way too high of all the receivers, both under. But look what happens when you do that. They are going to do you a payout shift to 8x. So obviously you don't want to take the payout shift. You want the 10x. So what you could do, instead of throwing these guys all in the same entry, if you're playing NBA today or NHL, whatever you're doing, throw this stack into any slip you have. So if you're doing a 4-man on NBA with whoever it is, I don't know, Miles Turner throwing in, Tatum, throw these 4 guys in and then throw in the Michael Penix and Odunze stack on the under. You also have that hedge with the over stack we just made together. And same thing with JJ McCarthy and Roman Wilson. So that's kind of how I would play it. I'll throw this stack in one entry here. So this stack I would throw in with maybe these 4 guys like this, throw them all in the over. Now I have a nice 6-man with a very nice stack on Penix and Odunze. And then I would go back into another slip. I would throw in JJ McCarthy on the under with Roman Wilson on the under also, and fill in another 4 guys to make another 6 slip. That's basically my ideas for the college football slate tonight, and that is the official slip right here on JJ McCarthy's over, Westover, Johnson, and Loveland. Good luck, everyone.